ahead and do a quick roll call with our clerk to establish us back in order. And then Council Vice President, I'll turn it over to you. Madam Clerk.
Roll call. Councilmember Nguyen.
Here.
Councilmember Brissett.
Here.
Councilmember Glapion.
Here.
Councilmember Moreno.
Here.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer.
Here.
Councilmember Banks.
Here.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Here.
We have 7 members. We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Council Vice President Glapion, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam President and colleagues, for making space for me to take this moment of personal privilege to honor 4 community pillars whose work and sacrifices have benefited the children and families in New Orleans and forever changed the field of social work here in the city and in the country as a whole. As we all know, this is Women's History Month. It also happens to be Social Worker Month, and I am honored to welcome Dr. Pearlie Harden Elwha, Dr. Marilyn Piper Riley, Mrs. Gloria Bryant Banks, who we honor today as the first African-American grad students to earn degrees from the Tulane School of Social Work, and among the first to graduate from Tulane. They serve as models for transcending tradition and breaking barriers, and we welcome them here this morning. We are also pleased to have HMK Amanda, daughter of Dr. Millie Ruth McClellan Charles, who we lost this past fall. As most of you know, Dr. Charles had to leave New Orleans briefly to enter a graduate social work program at USC, but returned to be the driving force who developed the accredited and renowned social work program at SUNO, and which ultimately became her namesake. So we have so many New Orleanians who have changed the world as we know it, and the journeys of our invited guests are the truest example of knocking down walls that were obstacles to the health and welfare of the Black community here in New Orleans. I want to take a moment to hear from each of our honorees who blazed trails, creating opportunities for 3 generations and counting. I want to give you all the floor to introduce yourself, and I welcome my colleagues following that to give their regards as their wish. If we could have Dr. Elwha, please. You're muted, Dr. Elwha. We can't hear you.
Okay, better now?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so very much for inviting me here this morning to sit with my colleagues in both spirit and virtually. I know they, like me, appreciate the fact that this is International Women's Month, and most of what we do is really looking forward to the next generation of young women who are sitting in positions like you and other young people on that dais, and really making things happen for the city of New Orleans. I'm pleased to have been a part of the growth of this community along with Gloria and Marilyn. Our paths have crossed for many, many years, and it's been a journey, but it's been a journey that's been very fruitful, I think. And it's been a journey that I have shared with wonderful, wonderful women like your mother and the 2 women who sit here with me today. Thank you so very much for recognizing us.
Thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you for being with us here this morning as well. Dr. Piper. Unmute yourself. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning. It is just such a pleasure and honor to be here. This whole experience has been sometimes rough, but very, very rewarding. And it's just great to be among women, and we all can celebrate what has happened. And for me, the biggest part of celebration is not just going to school and getting the degree, but the fact that it enhanced my ability to have a positive impact on families, children, and our community. And my motto now is we can't stop now because there's still a lot to be done in the community. So thank you, and let us all just keep striving to make this world a better place.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate you as well. And the third in this trio happens to be the mother of Councilmember J.H. Banks. And we're delighted to have you, Sarah Banks. Do you have a few words for us this morning?
I do. Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure this is to be in your presence. And this is just so special, this virtual communication together, and yet we are separated. And so technology moves forward. Thank you, Councilman Banks, for being present this morning. It's nice to see your face. And thanks to all of you. I am just so excited about this. So if I go off on a tangent, Council Member Glapion, just bring me back. It has been, as has been said, a journey, but a full-fledged journey of reaching out to others and trying to make a difference in not only this community, but in this world. Back in 1963, things were very different than they are now. And when I walked through the doors at Tulane University, I was prepared and yet a little scared or apprehensive. I was prepared with my college journey at Dillard University, one of our historically Black colleges, and Atlanta University also. So going to Tulane, I was academically ready, but I was not scared, but yeah, a little bit apprehensive because I didn't know exactly what would be on the other side of the doors. I know I went to continue my education, and so I was determined that that would happen. Yes, since then, life has been good, working in the community, working extensively with my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, which is a public service sorority, and we do things in the community with children, elderly, and our peers. And having worked in state government all of my professional life, it has been truly an experience. You've got to work in state government to really appreciate it, because many times in the beginning, when you first start on your cases, whatever your responsibility is, it seems like, wow, maybe we really are going to have a difficult time getting there. But at the end of the day, when you have accomplished what you want to accomplish with children and families, it is so rewarding. And so it's wonderful that I'm here with Pearlie and Marilyn on that Tulane journey together. And Marilyn and I were at least a support for each other because we were on campus at the same time. And so we left Pearlie behind And she made it with flying colors, because look at her today and all of the things that she has done since she made that journey by herself. So to this city council and all that you are doing, I want to thank you for this opportunity. And if I may just veer for one moment, I spoke with the Dean of the School of Social Work, Dr. Patrick Broadwick. And he said, if ever I had the opportunity to say to this council, and especially his councilman, and he is in District B, he wants all of you to know that he is so proud of this council because of the leadership that you have provided during this pandemic. He is really appreciative, and he knows that he speaks for many, many, many citizens of this city. Sometimes in a situation, you can never, there's almost no win, and yet there's a win-win. But this council kept the focus on the safety of the city of New Orleans, and he wanted you all to know that. So on that note, thank you so much for having me here with my colleagues, and thank you for all that you do. Good morning.
Thank you, Sarah Banks, and thank each of you for blazing those trails. We also have with us HMK. She is the daughter of Dr. Millie Charles, and she is going to say a few words on her behalf.
Open my mic. Well, thank you very much for honoring my mother in this way. I'm sitting here in her living room, and I'm facing a wall that has nothing but my mother's pictures on it. Well, one is a picture of her and my father, and another one is a picture of me with my mother. But the rest of the pictures covering the wall are all of her. And I remember when I put them up, because she said to me, people are going to think I'm narcissistic. And I said, no, I'll let them know that I put them up there. And they range from when she was in diapers. Can you imagine? Teenager and then young adulthood. But I'm saying that to say that my mother has always made a point of saying that it's not about her. And even though she's received many honors, some of which have come out of the city council, she has always made a point to say, as she did when they broke the ground for the William Charles School of Social Work building, she was asked, and she said, well, she started laughing and she said, one monkey don't stop no show. And when she was honored for the Loving Cup Award, she said, can I just say a few words? And those few words were, she didn't do anything by herself, that it was always a team effort. And I just want to reinforce that when we speak about the fact that we're establishing an institute in her name, the William Charles Institute for Empowerment, Advocacy, and Transformation. It is something that people have seen as a need to reinforce the issues that she dedicated her life to. So I think at the very least, we have to understand that she was not about just being honored. She wasn't about that at all, but she served as an inspiration. And an inspiration for what? It's an inspiration for us to continue the work that is so necessary for youth, for families of diverse backgrounds, but especially for those who are the least of us, who have the least, not the least of us, but who have the least. She's about equity. And I'm hoping that more and more people will jump on this bandwagon and continue the work that is so dearly needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for those words and for being here with us this morning as we honor your mother and her life's work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam President, any colleagues would like to have remarks?
I'm sure Councilmember Banks would like to say a few words about his mother and the other ladies, and I'll follow him.
Thank you, Madam President and Madam Vice President. I am always honored to be in the company of my mother, but I'm also very honored and blessed to be in the company of all of these other very, very, very stalwart women. I know that I stand on the shoulders of giants, and those are the giants that I stand on. And I am very appreciative for all of the contributions that you all have made, not just to me, but to all of the others like me and throughout this community and throughout this state and throughout this country, actually, because we have all made very great strides based on work that you all have done. And it is never easy to be the first. It is never easy to have to be the trailblazer. And you all were them. So I am very proud to know you. I'm even prouder to be very closely affiliated with one of you. Matter of fact, I don't think you can get much closely affiliated. So with that, this is indeed a very proud day for me. And Donna, thank you so much for doing this. And welcome to the City Council. And again, thank you all.
I'll follow Councilmember Banks. So Dr. Elwa, Dr. Piper, Dr. Bryant, to the daughter of Dr. Millie Charles, thank you so much for being with us today. And, you know, I was listening to you talk about your work and the fight that you put in to get to where you are and to fight for our community. And also this, of course, being International Women's Month. And some of the comments that you made were about really making things happen, right? And about how we can't stop now. And you're right. The whole point of International Women's Month is to remind us about celebrating women and about elevating women. And I have to tell you that, you know, yesterday I spent all day at a 10-hour hearing in Baton Rouge because of the sexual misconduct, severe sexual misconduct that has happened at LSU with women students. And just once again made me realize of just how much more as women we must continue to fight against discrimination, to fight for equality. That you're absolutely correct. You know, we can't stop now. We have so much more to do. We have come a long way, but there's much more work that lies in front of us. So I just want to thank you so much for being those fighters and for encouraging women like me to look to you and see all that you have done, because it just motivates me to keep it going. So thank you all so much for your tremendous work. I appreciate you being with us. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over to whoever wants to go next.
I'll jump in and thank you, Councilmember Glapion, for bringing these amazing women to our virtual meeting. So first of all, I want to salute you as part of International Women's History Month. It's really been the trailblazer for many of us. If it wasn't for you, I don't think I would be sitting here as the first Vietnamese American City Council member. So that I thank you for opening up the wave. Ms. Elwa, I don't know if you remember, but you were part of us in Versailles in bringing Head Start to a very underserved, isolated community. And I'm so honored to have this opportunity to thank you because I haven't seen you for a minute, but just bringing Head Start to a community that is so needed, and I know many of our community need it, but you make sure that Versailles Arms, which once held the largest Vietnamese American immigrants, as well as a very diverse community, Versailles Head Start served hundreds of little children. Even my 28-year-old who just made her birthday, Serena Wynn, who graduated from Versailles Arms. And I always echo the education that she received there, the leadership that she received at Versailles that helped her to where she's at today. So that I also want to thank you personally for the Versailles Head Start and the continued effort of bringing Head Start to our community. And Mama Banks, I thought I recognized you. I was like, I know that lady, I know that lady. And so it's always good to see all of you guys. And again, thank you for what you've been doing and setting the way for many of us that are still learning and are still doing everything we can, but we definitely have strong foundation that you have established for us. So again, thank you so much.
I just want to also put my voice in and thank you. And I want to thank Ms. Elwa as well. I mean, I think one of the great honors we have in Algiers is to have your name on the Head Start building. And it's such a wonderful, warm place. And you just feel the warmth in there. And you know how vital it is to our children. And I just want to say that to all of you women, understand, as probably only women and caretakers do, the importance of early childhood education and these Head Start programs, because that really now everybody is waking up and realizing that 0 to 3 is so important. But as mothers, you know that you went into service, and that is how you've greatly impacted all of our families and our children, and to bring them to be healthy adults and to have a healthy city. And again, I just want to thank all of you for being leaders in your field and leaders for women and examples for all of us. So thank you very much for your work.
If that's all, Madam President, I will just thank our honorees again for their lifetime of work, changing the field of social work, affecting in a positive way children and families in this community throughout their lifetimes. So just thank you for all of your work, all of your trailblazing, all of your sweat and tears and love energy to make this a better community. We honor you and we thank you for being with us today. We will have proclamations for each of you signed by this entire body, and we will get those to you shortly. So thank you for your work and thank you for joining us here this morning. Madam President.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Madam Clerk, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're on page 2, approval of the minutes, February the 11th, 2021, and February 25th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Second.
Oh, who got that one, Madam Clerk?
It sounds like Councilmember Glapion.
Councilmember Glavine, got it, with the second.
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette, Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and no approval of the minutes is done. We have a special orders of business. All special orders are temporarily postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Consent agenda. We have a communication from Teresa R. Beecher, Council Research Officer, New Orleans City Council. This should be marked received. On top of page 3, we have a communication from Aaron Spears, Chief of Staff and Council Utilities Regulatory Office. This should be marked received. On top of page 4, we have a communication from Amy B. Trepanier, Personnel Director, City of New Orleans, Department of Civil Service. Amendment to the Classified Pay Plan, Crime Laboratory Director, Police. This should be marked received and referred to the Budget Committee. We have a communication from Estelle T. Brown, Intake Supervisor, Department of Safety and Permits, Office of Business and External Services, City of New Orleans. 1233 Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard. This should be received and the suggested hearing date is March 25th. We have a communication from Estelle T. Brown, Intake Supervisor, Department of Safety and Permits, Office of Business and External Services, City Council of New Orleans, City of New Orleans, 2129 through 2131 4th Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date is March the 25th. We're now on top of page 5. We have a communication from Leonard McCullum Jr., President, Seabrook Neighborhood Improvement and Security District. This should be marked received. We have a communication from Estelle T. Brown, Intake Supervisor, Department of Safety and Permits, Office of Business and External Services, City of New Orleans, 5217 South Durbany Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date, March 25th. On top of page 6, we have a communication from Sergeant Stuart M. Smith, New Orleans Police Department, Investigation and Support Bureau, Property Crime Section. This should be marked received. On top of page 7, we have a communication from David W. Gernhauser, Secretary, Board of Liquidation, City Debt. This should be marked received. We have a report from Teresa R. Beecher, Council Research Officer, New Orleans City Council. This should be marked received. On top of page 8, we have the report of the Executive Director of the New Orleans Historic District Landmarks Commission Central Business District Historic District Landmarks Commission, 925 Burdette Street. This communication was received on the 1/28/21. This should be marked received. We have the report of the Executive Director of the City Planning Commission. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date is set for March 25th. We have ordinance calendar number 33,234 by Councilmember Banks and Councilmember Wynn. The Criminal Justice Committee recommended approval. On top of page 9, we have ordinance calendar number 33,239 by Councilmember Wynn, 6820 through 6828 Chef Mature Highway and 6809 Brutus Street, zoning docket 9420. We have ordinance calendar number 33,240 by Councilmember Gissison Palmer, 738 through 740 Thayer Street, zoning docket 9520. On top of page 10, we have ordinance calendar number 33,241 by Councilmember Gissison Palmer, 1544 North Claiborne Avenue, zoning docket 9620. Ordinance calendar number 33,243 by Councilmember Banks and Jeruso, zoning docket number 8320. On top of page 11, we have ordinance calendar number 33,244 by Council Members Banks and Wynn by request. The Community Development Committee recommended approval. Those are all the matters on the consent agenda.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there public comment?
Yes, ma'am. The first comment is on consent agenda item number 5, and it is from Roy Faria Jr. Hi, my name is Roy Faria Jr. I am the owner of this property. I am a local native of New Orleans who grew up in the Uptown area and graduated from McDonough 35. I closed on a loan to rebuild this 2-family home immediately after demolition so I can move in. I am currently paying mortgage on this property and rent for an apartment until the home is built. And in the midst of a pandemic, it is taking a toll on my finances. My architect and engineer have researched the property and have found that the home is in need of demolition due to the foundation and structural issues. You can see the plans are stamped and already approved by the engineer. Please allow me to demo this blighted property and help rebuild the neighborhood. An approval is needed and is appreciated in advance. The next comment is from Joe Santiago, and it is on consent item number 8. I would like a motion to have animals barking and making a lot of noise from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. to get some sort of fine to the owner. There have been too many times in our neighborhood where we have been woken up and could not get to sleep because of animals barking. This is a low priority for police, and complaints should create a warning and fines. Please take this issue on because these issues cause anger and resentment that is slow to go away. The rest of the comments are on consent item number 33. The first one is from Marvin Arnold. These decisions are not based on good science, data, or public policy. These are some of the top results after Googling, quote, curfew public safety research, end quote. The first result is the effectiveness of juvenile curfews at crime prevention by Kenneth Adams. Juvenile
Hey,
curfew law.
Teresa, let me stop you real quick. It's item number 13, not 33. I believe you meant to say.
Did I say 30? I apologize. Consent item number 13. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Juvenile curfew, so I'm still on Marvin Arnold. Juvenile curfew laws have become a pervasive and popular strategy for controlling juvenile crime. Public opinion is solidly behind the use of curfews, and the primary basis for this support is the notion that curfews make streets safer. This article provides preliminary results from a systematic review of empirical research on juvenile curfews, concluding that the evidence does not support the argument that curfews prevent crime and victimization. Juvenile crime and victimization are most likely to remain unchanged after implementation of curfew laws. Other aspects of curfew research, such as efficiency at detecting criminal activity, costs of enforcement, crime displacement, counterintuitive findings, and characteristics of curfew violators are also discussed. Finally, suggestions for future research are offered. Juvenile curfews are not a smart or safe choice. Benita Day. Vote no on expanding the city's curfew policy, which makes it easier for the police to stop and harass young Black people. A police-enforced curfew is a tool of racial profiling and police harassment, not of public safety. New Orleans city leaders need to stop investing our resources in more policing and start investing in the things kids and families need to thrive. Youth needs to be built up, not broken down. Talia Broomberg. My name is Talia, and I'm a resident of District 2. I firmly oppose raising the age for the curfew. It is clearly an attempt to criminalize more youth, especially young men of color. It is essentially giving NOPD a blank check to stop and harass anyone that they want under the guise of, quote, looking young. Raising the age will harm New Orleanians and create a public safety risk. Claire Singer. I'm opposed to the curfew as it is a racist policy and is another reason police will call on to brutalize Black people. It doesn't make sense and won't bring any measure of safety. It doesn't address any root causes of harm. It just provides more opportunities for surveillance and violence. I urge every council member to oppose this. Bob Payne. I urge you not to implement more of a curfew for youth in the city. Youth development professionals in groups like VIET and Dryads YMCA and more know how much curfew laws are discriminatorily enforced against Black kids and kids in low-income neighborhoods. I urge you to stop seeking to prosecute our kids and instead seek to give them resources that they need to succeed. Zoe Ryer. My name is Zoe, and I am a resident of District E. I urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. The curfew ordinance is ineffective and discriminatory. Although children of all races stay out late, 92% of children who NOPD stops for curfew violations are youth of color. Lewis Gregory. Curfews are the epitome of racist policy. Curfews have historically been used to marginalize and silence Black communities. When arrests and detentions are equal between white and Black youth, then perhaps such policies can be argued as not detrimental to worsening racial disparities in interactions with the criminal justice system, and in effect, public health and safety. But right now, you are trading away Black rights for an illusion of improved public welfare. We implore you all to never divorce yourselves from evidence-based approaches and spend a moment reading about our history before bringing racist relics back into our lives. You are destined to cause only more harm if you do not. Amy Mercina. She notes that she is a paid representative of Operation Restoration. We at Operation Restoration urge the City Council to vote no on expanding the curfew. It is widely known that curfews are ineffective, discriminatory, and dangerous. Please take time to hear from all sides, particularly college students and other young adults who have been subjected to stops and searches by the police, even though curfews do not apply to them. Thank you. Rachel Gassert. According to the rules and regulations of the New Orleans City Council, the consent agenda is, quote, for the adoption of routine or non-controversial matters, end quote. I find it curious that in the year 2021, while the police officer accused of killing George Floyd is sitting on trial in Minneapolis as we speak, that this council would consider a measure that will increase the likelihood of contact between Black youth and law enforcement, a, quote, routine or non-controversial matter. I wonder whether a 17-year-old Black boy walking in his neighborhood at 8:30 p.m. would consider this non-controversial. How do you think he would feel about being stopped and questioned by the police for nothing more than walking in his neighborhood at a certain time of night? LCCR and our partner organizations do know how young people feel about this because when the decision was made to start enforcing the curfew in 2019, we surveyed a group of young people. They told us things like, the curfew punishes all kids for actions of only some, and it gives the police another way to target and harass young Black youth. The curfew policy does not help our children, it only criminalizes them. The council claims this is necessary for public safety. Yet the curfew policy did not reduce juvenile crime when NOPD started enforcing it in 2019, a fact that is not at all surprising. A 2016 meta-analysis of research on curfew policies found that the evidence suggests that juvenile curfews are ineffective at reducing crime and victimization. The average effect on juvenile crime during curfew hours was slightly positive. That is, a slight increase in crime, and close to zero for crime during all hours. Similarly, juvenile victimization also appeared unaffected by the imposition of a curfew ordinance. See themarshallproject.org. Instead of reducing crime, curfews increase young people's interactions with law enforcement, an increase which is almost exclusively experienced by Black youth in New Orleans. At best, this further erodes the relationship between law enforcement and Black communities, and at worst, God forbid, could result in another tragic death of an unarmed Black person at the hands of law enforcement. I ask that you reconsider this ill-advised amendment and vote no on the expansion of the curfew ordinance. Anna Sachs. Greetings, my name is Anna Sachs, a resident of New Orleans who works at Voice of the Experienced, also known as VOTE. I urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. The curfew ordinance is ineffective, dangerous, and has a disproportionate negative impact on youth of color in our city. 92% of children stopped by NOPD for curfew violations are youths of color. Interactions with law enforcement as a child of color can lead to unnecessary criminal justice involvement, additional instances of police violence, and even death. Our city is no safer since 2019 when NOPD began enforcing the curfew, nor has it protected our kids or communities. If we're going to make New Orleans safer for everyone, we need to focus on what actually works to reduce crime and set our kids up for success. That means investing in the things kids and families need to thrive, like access to safe and affordable housing, quality education that has after-school programming, and then sets them up for jobs rather than in more policing and punishment. We must allow our youth to be the kids that they are in order for them to succeed. Thank you for your time. Henna Lewis. My name is Henna Lewis, and I am a resident of District B. I urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. The curfew ordinance is discriminatory. 92% of children who the NOPD stops for curfew violations are youth of color. It further instills mistrust in law enforcement. It is also ineffective, as since its enforcement in 2019, it has so far not curbed juvenile crime nor protected kids from being victims of crime. If we're going to make New Orleans safer for everyone, we need to focus on what actually works to reduce crime and sets kids up for success. That means investing in the things kids and families need to thrive, like stable housing, schools, and after-school activities, rather than more policing and punishment. Katie Walker. Dear council members, I am writing to urge you to oppose the expansion of the curfew to include 17-year-olds. The curfew, which has been enforced since 2019, already fails to curb crime and gives the police more opportunities to harass young Black people or worse. Beyond that, I can't understand why the council would consider this a routine or non-controversial matter, such that it would be included on the consent agenda. Increasing police contact with kids of color is not without consequence, and it is troubling that the council would categorize that issue as either routine or non-controversial. I also believe it is disingenuous to claim that this in any way is related to raise the age. Louisiana raised the age of criminal jurisdiction to 18 to help keep more children out of the justice system, not to make it easier to funnel them into it. City Council can abide by the spirit of the Raise the Age Act by focusing on what actually works to prevent and reduce crime, investing resources into things kids and families need to thrive, like living wage, affordable housing, and quality education. Please vote no to expanding the juvenile curfew ordinance. Thank you, Katie Walker. Trianon B. Dyer. As a licensed social worker in New Orleans, I have seen far too often the overcriminalization among Black and brown youth. I strongly urge City Council members to consider ending this racist policy on March 11th, 2021, that has been punishing our city's youth since its inception. As some directly and negatively impacted by the local criminal justice, as someone who is directly and negatively impacted by the criminal justice system, I am advocating to put an end to this discriminatory curfew. Now is the time for city leadership to make a concerted effort to curb any interaction of our youth with local law enforcement and see ways to preserve the quality of their future by voting to end this outdated ordinance. Taylor Holmes. Please vote no on this. Curfew enforcement is just another way for our state-funded kidnappers, NOPD, to harvest Black youths into the prison pipeline. Over 90% of our kids in our local juvenile prison are Black. Stop pretending that's an accident and vote no on any legislation that needlessly and senselessly puts our children behind bars. People are free to do as they please. All people. Florentina Stagers. She notes that she is a paid representative of Friends and Families of Louisiana's Incarcerated Children. I write on behalf of Families and Friends of Louisiana's Incarcerated Children, FFLIC, to oppose the City Council's youth curfew proposal, currently listed as consent agenda item 13. The mission of FFLIC is to create a better life for all of Louisiana's youth, especially those involved in or targeted by the youth incarceration system. As an organization, we recognize and seek to dismantle the pervasive institutional and structural racism that is negatively impacting Black and brown youth. In our work, we see this violence happening every day, and in particular, in the form of criminalization of our youth. In that vein, we believe that the city's proposal to raise the curfew age is another misguided policy that will further the criminalization of youthful behavior and strengthen structures of institutional racism without achieving the goal of reducing crime. We as a society and as individuals are quick to ignore the challenges youth face and to instead simply place blame and punish them when they act out. We see this very clearly in recent media narratives and policy discourse, which label youth as criminals and treat them like adults. And it is unfortunate that we still have not progressed beyond this type of profiling. Almost 30 years ago, the super predator myth of the 90s resulted in the arrest of untold numbers of innocent youth of color, leading to decades of harm to communities and police relationships that recent movements are still trying to unfurl. It seems we have yet to learn that we cannot simply vilify our young people. Instead, we have to recognize that the conditions and challenges that they face are deeply rooted in institutional racism. In any discussion about community violence or crime, we need to look at the institutions that create and perpetuate that violence, including the criminal justice system itself. Additionally, we hope the city will also consider that even the National League of Cities cited a report of compiled research showing evidence suggests that juvenile curfews are ineffective at reducing crime and victimization. Research by the Marshall Project has shown that allowing such discretionary police stops results in consistently exposing youth of color to a wide range of harms. Not only will this policy target and harm young Black and brown youths, it will have no real impact on crime. However, We have opportunities to connect with local children's youth and planning boards and the Office of Youth and Families to build holistic solutions that incorporate youth voices and needs. The real solution is support. FFLIC has developed a 3-point platform for our Let Kids Be Kids campaign, which urges Louisiana's leadership to come together to address the critical needs of children related to mental health, education, and poverty instead of blaming them. We urge you, do not move forward with the youth curfew and instead continue to develop and fund community-based services and support for our youth and their families. Thank you for your consideration of our views. Rachel Snyderman. My name is Rachel Snyderman and I am a resident of District B. I urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. The curfew ordinance is discriminatory. Although children of all races stay out late, 92% of children who NOPD stop for curfew violations are youth of color. If we're going to make New Orleans safer for everyone, we need to focus on what actually, works to reduce crime and sets these kids up for success. That means investing in the things kids and families need to thrive, like well-funded schools, rather than more policing and punishment. James Logan. My name is James Logan, and I'm a resident of District D. I urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. I have worked in the areas of criminal justice and youth development for over 2 decades. Curfews universally have been shown to be ineffective, discriminatory, and dangerous. Reducing crime is the goal for everyone, but curfews are a reactionary measure that may get you points politically, but do absolutely nothing to actually curb crime. NOPD has enforced the curfew since 2019, and it hasn't curbed juvenile crime or protected kids from being victims of crime. With the existing tense relationship between Black youth and NOPD, expanding the curfew will further damage already strained relationships between police and Black youth in New Orleans and increase the likelihood of victimization of young Black people by police. If we're going to make New Orleans safer for everyone, we need to focus on what actually works to reduce crime and set kids up for success. That means investing in the things kids and families need to thrive, like skills, development and jobs, affordable housing, and out-of-school time programs, rather than more policing and punishment. Monique Blossom. Dear members of the New Orleans City Council, my name is Monique Blossom and a resident of District A. I urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. The proposed curfew ordinance is ineffective, discriminatory, and dangerous for young people in New Orleans. Since a curfew has been in place, NOPD has not been able to effectively curb juvenile crime or protect children from being victims of crime. I recently learned that 92% of children stopped by NOPD for curfew violations are children of color. Please take a moment to consider this horrific statistic and recognize the blatant racism and discrimination at play here. We all know that children of all races stay out late, but 92% stopped by NOPD for curfew violations are children of color? To make New Orleans safe for everyone, and especially for our children, and especially for our children of color, we need to invest in schools, housing, and jobs, the things children and families need to thrive, not just get by. Investing in policing and punishment will only give us more of the same. No real decrease in crime and discriminatory policies targeting our children of color. Thank you for your carefully attention to all the public testimony presented today. Respectfully, Monique Blossom. Marie Claire Sereau. My name is Marie Claire Sereau, and I'm a resident of Orleans Parish. I urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. The curfew ordinance is discriminatory. Although children of all races stay out late, 92% of children who NOPD stops for curfew violations are youth of color. Abby Solomon. This curfew is an opportunity to arrest our young New Orleanians and send them down a path of incarceration and all the negative consequences that come from that. We should be investing in our children's housing, nutrition, and education instead of more policing and arresting. Being out of your house should not be a crime in a free society. There is also a risk of discrimination. Please do not allow this curfew to go into place for the safety of our children. Maxwell Ciaduro. I think Reverend Manning said it best in the lens when he urged you to invest in our youth. not pass policies that will cause and strengthen the mindset that our youth should be feared. There's no data to show our curfew has impacted crime, but there is data to show that it has been implemented in a way that disproportionately targets young people of color. Please vote no on expanding the curfew. Chris Kaiser, noting that he is a paid representative of the ACLU of Louisiana. The ACLU of Louisiana opposes the proposed expansion of the juvenile curfew to cover 17-year-olds. There is no evidence, either from New Orleans or other jurisdictions across the country, that juvenile curfews prevent crime. In New Orleans, the curfew has no preventative effect on crime committed by or against youths. Expanding the curfew to cover more youth is simply doubling down on a policy that has been proven ineffective. What we do know is that the curfew, as applied, disproportionately affects children of color in New Orleans. Black youth accounted for 84.7% of the curfew stops in 2019, and Hispanic youth accounted for 8.3%. Only 6.9% of curfew stops involved white youth. In the city, if the city or NOPD believes that more confrontations with armed police officers makes our children safer or prevents crime, then they must support those claims with evidence, but none has been provided. Nor is this ordinance necessary to comply with the 2016 Raise the Age amendments in the Children's Code. The purpose of that legislation was to reduce the number of children forced into interactions with the criminal legal system, not to expand the net. Nothing in Act 501 required this change in the municipal code. It has been 5 years since its enactment. At the January 25th joint meeting on crime prevention, we urged the council to we urged the council to base its crime prevention policy on evidence and to exercise skepticism around proposals that conflate crime prevention with reactive enforcement. There are better approaches to crime prevention and better investments we can make for the children in New Orleans, more than just policing. The approach offered today will not move us forward. Respectfully, we ask that you reject this ordinance. Angela Quinn. My name is Angela B. Quinn, and I am a resident of Metairie. The welfare of all people in the greater New Orleans area concerns me, so even though I am not a New Orleans resident, I strongly urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. The curfew ordinance is discriminatory. Although children of all races stay out late, 92% of children who NOPD stops for curfew violations are youths of color. If we're going to make New Orleans a better place for everyone, we need to focus on what actually works to set kids up for success. This means investing in things like kids and families that they need to thrive, like after-school programs, a real-life living income for their parents, rather than more surveillance, policing, and punishment. Marissa Kloger. It's sneaky for y'all to try and push this through without adequate consideration and feedback from the public, and you know it. Do not expand policing and surveillance of our youth. I'd say shame on y'all, but I've said it too many times and y'all don't care about shame. Do not expand policing and surveillance on our youth. Alexandra Greengrass. My name is Alexandra Greengrass, and I'm a Garden District resident. I urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. The curfew ordinance is both ineffective and discriminatory. NOPD has enforced the curfew since 2019, and it hasn't curbed juvenile crime or protected kids from being victims of crime. More crucially, though children of all races stay out late, 92% of children who NOPD stops for curfew violations are youth of color. If we're going to make New Orleans safer for everyone, we need to focus on what actually works to reduce crime and set kids up for success. This means investing in things kids and families need to thrive, such as after-school programs, rather than more policing and punishment. Sarah Amahola. I'm emailing urging council members to abandon unproven methods purported to keep youth safe or prevent juvenile crime. Curfews do not work. They are ineffective, discriminatory, and dangerous. First, NOPD has been enforcing the curfew since 2019, and it has not reduced juvenile crime nor protected children from being the victims of crime. Research shows that curfews have proven ineffective all over the country. Second, this curfew is simultaneously unnecessary and discriminatory. The police already have the authority to stop anyone, including a minor who they believe is breaking the law. The curfew lets them stop young people and adults who look young, who are not doing anything illegal. As with many discretionary policies, the police use curfew almost exclusively to stop Black youth. 85% of curfew stops in New Orleans were of Black youth, 8% of Latinx youth, and 7% of white youth. Relatedly, it's important to note that NOPD is still struggling to follow rules meant to ensure constitutional stops, searches, and arrests. Finally, contact with police officers can lead to dangerous outcomes. Further, negative encounters with law enforcement erode public trust in the police, traumatize the youth stopped, and possibly leads to yet another police beating or killing of a Black person. There are other ways to engage youth, keep them safe, and reduce crime. Let's do better. Please vote no. Bonnie Porter. An expanded curfew is really an expansion of stop and frisk policies. It's no secret that the young people who will be stopped under the pretext of this curfew will be people of color. Some will be underage, but some will also just be people coming home from work or just having a night out. Is the French Quarter an amenity for tourists only? Or do young people from New Orleans also deserve to enjoy their city's nightlife without being subject to police harassment? In a time when cities across the country are examining policing policies that harm people of color, deciding to vote for a stop and frisk policy is shockingly regressive. Justice-involved youth have a whole slew of obstacles set in front of them at this time when they are just starting out in their life. This is a backwards policy. It won't stop crime, just as the existing curfew hasn't prevented crime either. No. Bruce Baldwin. This is how fascism legislated by burying a public curfew in general comments. This curfew will result in public harm. NOPD has a history of stopping, frisking, and killing Black youth, men, in its streets. This curfew is a racist attempt to provide NOPD with another cause to harass and harm Black teenagers. There is no compelling public interest served by imposing a curfew on teenagers at this time. Renee Salida. There are so many things we can do to reduce crime and support kids, like making sure their families have a living wage and a roof over their head. Imagine if those kinds of measures made it onto the consent agenda instead of failed policies like the curfew, which we know hasn't made us safer and has actively caused harm to young people of color. Today's City Council has an opportunity to say no to more policing and punishment, and to instead invest in kids' well-being from the get-go. I urge you to take this opportunity. Aaron Marrero. My name is Aaron Marrero, and I'm a resident of District D. I urge you to vote no on expanding the curfew. The curfew ordinance is ineffective and discriminatory. NOPD has enforced the curfew since 2019, and it hasn't curbed juvenile crime or protected kids from being victims of crime. And although children of all races stay out late, 92% of children whose NOPD stops for curfew violations are youth of color. If we're going to make New Orleans safer for everyone, we need to focus on what actually works to reduce crime and set kids up for success. This means investing in things kids and families need to thrive, like jobs, after-school programs, and resources to combat childhood trauma, rather than more policing and punishment. New Orleans is a tough and traumatizing city for kids of color. We don't want to add to that trauma by inciting unnecessary interactions with law enforcement. Emily Ratner. Please do not expand the curfew. Treat kids like kids. Criminalizing children is no way to address crime. Tom Andes. Please do not expand the curfew ordinance. The answer to keeping children safe is not expanding the power of the police to arrest them, but to invest in infrastructure in the community. And the last comment is from Leslie Molson. I strongly oppose the use of curfews aimed at children in New Orleans. If law enforcement is telling us that the only way they can combat certain kinds of crime is to physically prevent children from leaving their houses after a certain hour, then that doesn't say very much for LE's ability to combat that crime. Arbitrary statements like, no one should be out at 3:30 in the morning, should not be used as a justification to further curtail the rights of our children, most of whom will, of course, be Black and poor. Manufacturing opportunities for adversarial encounters is not a strategy for preventing crime. It's a strategy for over-incarceration. Recently, there were a string of burglaries on a commercial stretch of Magazine Street in the middle of the night. Perhaps NOPD should be concentrating on regular patrols and ways to prevent crime that are actually happening instead of potentially happening. Perhaps also a social service agency should be interacting with kids who seem to be on the street at odd times. There are a zillion reasons why they may not want to be home, including abuse and neglect. If only we dedicated more money and time to why children can't or won't stay home, rather than punishing them for it by putting them in the system. Those are all the comments on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Beecher. Any council members want to make any comments? Seeing none. I have one comment or question really for Chief Thomas. Chief Thomas, are you on with us?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Hey, Chief Thomas, thank you so much for being with us. So I'm sure you heard some of the comments that were shared. Their concern is really on the enforcement piece, and that's they feel like there could be a disproportionate impact on youth of color. So what is the NOPD going to do to ensure that that is not the case? We're also in a consent decree. So, you know, obviously you all have to be incredibly careful on your stops, and we're being closely watched. So what can you say to the council and to the public on some of the concerns raised during the public comment?
I heard the statistics and what they talked about, but NOPD is committed to enforcing the curfew across the board throughout the city, not just in the French Quarter, but through all 8 districts within the city. And we enforce the curfew violation just like any other law across the board, no matter race, sex, or anything else. And that's what I think needs to be brought up, that we're not targeting anybody by their race, anything. And that's a big part of the consent decree, as you mentioned, council member, that we have bias free. We're actually being monitored as to all our stops, and we will make stops accordingly across the entire city.
And Chief, do you think that you know, one thing that I believe could be useful is if you all came back to us, let's say, you know, 6 weeks, 2 months from now, with data on the curfews, about, you know, geographic data on where stops have occurred, you know, different neighborhoods, also race and ethnicity of those who are given curfew citations, along with the age, and any additional information that you can give us on the outcomes of those citations as well, I think would be useful for us to see, and also for the public to see as well.
I'll start working on that, Councilmember.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Moreno,
No, Joe, go ahead.
I've got a couple people raising their hands. Councilmember Drew, so I see your screen up first.
Thank you. I just wanted Commander Thomas or Deputy, Thomas, to explain a little bit more about the consent decree, because I think you're making a good point that people forget there's all sorts of provisions, not only about NOPD, but what they have to do. And so can you talk a little bit about the bias-free policing, what it means, and then how it's actually monitored as well, and what not only the monitors do, but what the court does to make sure NOPD is complying with those terms?
So that is a part of the consent decree, bias-free policing, stop, search, and arrest, to make sure that we're doing it equitably. We have our PSAP, which is the auditing team that actually audits the districts to make sure that we are not instituting that. We also monitor the field interview cards to make sure that we're completing valid, legitimate, constitutional stops. So we have several checks and balances in place through our department, as well as the monitors and DOJ that actually reviews our information to make sure that we're not targeting a specific class of individuals.
And Chief, I know the answer to this is yes, but the monitors aren't shy about reporting there's a problem, right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So it's not only NOPD who's auditing it, it's also the monitors, DOJ, and the court who are looking at these numbers.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Council Member. President.
Okay, anybody else? Councilmember Banks, you're raising your hand.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to reemphasize and reiterate that I fully agree with many of the comments that were made, in that the real solution to our crime problem is not going to come from policing. We will never arrest our way out of crime. Things like early childhood education, things like increasing minimum wages, things like making it, having youth programs to give our children opportunities is what's going to actually make the difference. So by no means am I of the belief that this curfew ordinance, once this is passed, New Orleans is all of a sudden going to become Mayberry and there will be no more crime. That's not going to happen. But the fact is that we have to be intentional on making sure that those other issues don't get lost in the wash. Early childhood education is absolutely critical. If our children get to school and they aren't equipped to learn, they end up washing out, and then the opportunities for crime or the options of crime become far more realistic for them. If you got a choice between ABC fast food restaurant at $7 an hour and robbing somebody, those two choices are too close to each other. We need to make sure that when our kids get to school, that they're able to equip themselves so that when they do get through the system, they're able to go out and get jobs where crime never becomes an option to them. And that is just as simple as 1 and 1 equal 2. So by no means do I want to infer that this is the answer, that this is the one thing that needs to happen and all of a sudden everybody's going to be hunky-dory, because it's not. This is just one more tool to try to arrest the problem that we're in. And again, let me be clear, we will never arrest our way out of crime. We have to stop creating criminals. So all of those folks that wrote about early child education or education in general and youth programs and providing kids with opportunities, I stand with you. And I want to work with you all to make sure that we make those kind of opportunities more realistic and put them into place. I came from a nonprofit that dealt with kids every day. So I know how this works and I know what works. And we need to have more of those programs, more of those opportunities for children to be engaged in constructive activities, because there's a high probability if you don't engage them in something constructive, there's the real possibility that they may do something destructive. And that's why those kinds of programs are so imperative. So I'm happy to hear other people out there talking about it. And we need to keep those discussions going on and keep that ball moving down the field. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Banks. Any other comments? All right, seeing none. Now, can I get a motion to approve the?
Jared was trying to get you.
I was trying to get.
Councilmember Brissett, I'm sorry, I didn't see you on the screen. Go ahead.
Thank you, thank you, Councilmember Banks and Madam President, Commander Thomas, Chief Thomas. I'm sorry. Just wanted to follow up right quick. The field FIC cards, field interview cards. This information you all are required to take, have been for a number of years now, as per the consent decree, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
And I would also ask, in addition to providing us with information, if you all could more frequently post this data to the NOPD's website to provide the public with the up-to-date information. Just as y'all do.
You're asking about the FIC. Yes, and they're working on that, forward-facing transparency and with the technology. But as we do that and we do our interviews, there's no trends of bias that we have ever been able to find. And some of the issues are just the monitoring, has been measuring results with the monitors and how we actually measure the biases of anything. But that's the issue that we're dealing with. But there are no trends or biases, and nor is anybody suggesting that whether it be for curfew violation or any other crimes, that there's no trends or biases that we have identified.
Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, how since during the pandemic, if one is caught in violation of curfew, what will you do with them? You hold them till the parents come pick them up, drop them off, since the center is closed. What are the
What we do is
options are there?
we actually bring them to a parent or guardian and release them over to a parent or guardian.
And if that parent or guardian is not found?
Then we try to get with a neighbor or anybody that we can turn that person over to, but we would stay with them in contact that we can turn them over, whether it be a parent or guardian or somebody that the parent or guardian authorized us to release them to.
Thank you, Chief. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Brossett. All right, any other comments? Please speak up because I can't see everybody on my screen. Okay, no one else is speaking up. So with that, can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
I think that was Councilmember Nguyen first. Can I get a second, please?
Okay.
Second.
I believe it was Councilmember Brossett got it first. So
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen and then a seconded by Councilmember Brossett. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the consent agenda has been adopted. Council members, we need to go to page 29 to take up ordinance calendar number 33,245 by Councilmember Gissison Palmer by request.
All right, let's take it up.
Okay, give me 1 minute. Ordinance calendar number 33,245 by Councilmember Gissison Palmer by request. An ordinance to amend and reordain Article 21 of Chapter 30 and Chapter 162 of the Code of the City of New Orleans to transfer certain functions of the Department of Safety and Permits and to the Department of Public Works and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you so much. I so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Jeruso. Thank you so much. Council members, we heard this issue at transportation meeting on February 24th, but I would like to turn this over to Marcelo Barbaro to explain it a little bit more in depth for you and for the public. Mr. Barbaro.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and thank you, council persons on call. This transfer is an administrative transfer of the Ground Transportation Bureau from Safety and Permits to the Department of Public Works. It will go hand in hand with the enforcement we already do with our parking and towing enforcement, and will definitely expand out more enforcement and more things within the right of way that we take care of within the Department of Public Works. And I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any.
I think one of the big issues with this too is moving ground transportation U is that we'll now have enforcement past 9 to 5. Is that correct?
Yes, and that is something internally we're already looking at. And once we actually move the Ground Transportation Bureau into, I'm already working with internally here in DPW how we're going to do that and moving forward. And once we have those set, we will definitely let everybody on council know how we're going to handle that.
Great, I appreciate that. I think that's going to be very helpful for when our constituents have issues after business hours, as we all know that there are, that this will be able for the administration to respond more quickly. Council members, do y'all have any questions or comments regarding this? No? Okay, well, with that, maybe Ms. Laura, could we please have a vote?
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion, Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso,
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion. We have 6 yeas, no nays, and the ordinance has been adopted.
Thank you, council members.
At the bottom of the page, we have ordinance calendar number 33,248 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into a second amendment to a cooperative endeavor agreement by and between the city of New Orleans, the city, and the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority, NORA, to extend the term thereof for an additional 2 years to allow for continuation of the Joint Oak Park Stormwater Management and Flood Mitigation Project as more fully set forth in the Amendment Number 2 to the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement form attached hereto and made a part hereof, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Jeruso. This is a second amendment to the CEA between the City of New Orleans and New Orleans Redevelopment Authority for the Oak Park Stormwater Management and Flood Mitigation Project to extend the agreement for an additional 2 years. The Oak Park project will transform a cluster of NORA-owned properties in the Oak Park neighborhood into a stormwater management park to help reduce flooding. The project is financed through FEMA's hazard mitigation grant program. Do we have any public comment?
No, council member.
With that, I would, it's been moved and seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the ordinance has been adopted. We're now going to go back to the regular order of the agenda, which is on page 12. We have the regular agenda, land use matters. All land use are scheduled to commence at 11 a.m. or thereafter. All public comments on land use items are subject to City Council Rule 10.1B, whereby each land use matter is limited to a maximum public comment period of 20 minutes, with speakers being limited to two minutes per item. No ceding of public speaking time is permitted. Legislative grouping. We have a demolition request of Samuel Bailey on behalf of Avant-Garde LLC, requesting a demolition permit for the following property: 5025 South Prayer Street, accessory structure. We have motion M2197 by Councilmember Banks, a motion approving the demolition of the accessory structure located at 5025 South Prayer Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I move for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Wynn. I think we got a presentation. Teresa?
No, council member. The report's on the agenda.
Okay, then let me explain, colleagues, what this is. This is a demolition under the new demolition guidelines, and this is an accessory structure that was visible from the street. That's why it had to come before us. HDLC stated that there was no historical significance, and this one is an easy peasy one. So I'd appreciate your support. So with that, Madam Clerk.
Teresa, do we have any comments?
Not on this one, ma'am.
Okay, Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno, Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 6 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. We're now on top of page 13. We have legislative grouping, demolition request of Ronald Ward Construction LLC on behalf of KWC Construction LLC, requesting a demolition permit for the following property: 3126 St. Bernard Avenue. Motion M2193 by Councilmember Brissette. A motion granting the requested demolition of 3126 St. Bernard Avenue.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This is a demolition request for a single-family dwelling at 3126 St. Bernard Avenue. The HDLC does not object to the demolition. The home is not a contributing structure. Additionally, the structure has extensive termite damage. The applicant's plan is to replace the structure with a new single-family dwelling. I'm going to move for approval. Can I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. Ms. Beecher, is public comment?
Yes, Councilmember, we have one from Ronald Ward. Hello, my name is Ronald Ward of Ronald Ward Construction LLC. My partner and I purchased the property located at 3126 St. Bernard Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70117. We will demo the existing building, which is beyond repair, and build a new house, single-family home on the property. Thank you for your consideration. That's the only comment.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno, Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
6 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. We're
Thank
now, you're welcome. We're now on top of page 14, a legislative grouping, a HDLC appeal of Alexandra Mayan Design LLC founder, requesting to appeal the Historic District Landmark Commission's HDLC decision of denial of the application to alter the windows of half of the existing structure to match the historic facade of its other half for property located at 2820 through 2826 St. Claude Avenue. We have motion line over M2184 by Councilmember Gissison Palmer, a motion denying the applicant's appeal to replace two wood windows with full height windows at the front elevation.
Great, thank you so much. I move approval of M2184, upholding the HDLC decision of denial on this application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Banks. With that, Ms. Burke, are you here?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can. Do you mind giving us a background to this request, please?
Sure. 2820 to 26 St. Claude Avenue is a complex comprised of two 19th century wood frame contributing rated double shotgun residences that were conjoined several years ago. The current owner is embarking on a complete renovation of the property as a residence, showroom, and studio. The two existing residential buildings on this lot were connected by a hyphen addition in 2013 and unified into a single structure. Sanborn map evidence indicates that the two buildings were constructed at different times and are not sister houses with matching architectural features. The house on the right, known as 2820 to 22 St. Claude Avenue, was constructed between 1865 and 1875. The house on the left at 2824 to 26 St. Claude Avenue appears on the 1893 Sanborn map and was constructed later and was a two-family residential building that was either relocated back from the front property line or replaced with a new residential structure sometime between 1908 and 1937. It also appears that the left building may not have originally had a front porch, and the porch that exists now was added sometime after 1950. This project was reviewed by the ARC at their meeting of October 20th, 2020. At the time, the ARC made the following recommendations regarding the proposed changes to the front elevations. Existing windows and trim should be rehabilitated and retained rather than replaced with different size or type of windows, unless historic documentation or exploratory demolition reveals that this was the historic condition. Following the ARC meeting, the applicant submitted interior photo documentation that indicated that the windows on the left building were at one time full height windows, and as a result, the staff was able to approve their conversion. However, they were not able to provide this documentation for the building on the right, likely because they were never full height openings. The applicant then decided to appeal the ARC recommendation to the commission. The matter came before the commission at their meeting of February 2nd, 2021. At that time, the commission reviewed photos of the existing buildings, drawings of the proposed elevations, applicant testimony, and staff and ARC recommendations. The design guidelines of the HDLC encourage the retention of historic materials, stylistic features, and architectural authenticity whenever feasible, and discourage creating a false sense of history through changes to buildings purely for aesthetic interests. As a result, the ARC and staff recommended against the replacement of the windows with full-height windows in order to make the two buildings match when they never did originally. The commission then voted 11-1 to deny the application. The HDLC is excited for this project to move forward and for these two contributing rated structures to be rehabilitated and returned to commerce. The rich diversity of structures within New Orleans Historic District lends the districts their vitality, authenticity, and interest. The history of these two buildings are as separate structures, each with their own construction date, architectural character, and details. These should be retained and celebrated rather than erased. The HDLC encourages the City Council to deny this application and uphold the HDLC.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Burke. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, council member. The first one is from Alexandra Min and Christopher Doan. After 5 years of vacancy and severe neglect, our investment puts this building back into commerce and revitalizes an otherwise languishing section of St. Claude Avenue. While the building to our right is uninhabited and deteriorating, we will work closely with NOCA to nurture and beautify their vacant lot to our left. For the totality of bringing the site away from the brink of blight, we are asking for full-height windows on the right half to match the historic condition on the left. We purchased the property because of its mixed-use commercial zoning, because of its historic fabric, and because of our combined passion for the improvement the building necessitates. Our architectural design studios will be housed there, including retail in the front-facing portions. The full-height windows serve as our storefront, undeniably increases our visibility, serves to unify the haphazard appearance of the building, and positively impacts the viability of our venture. We came to realize the unfortunate stigma associated with this building only after its purchase and have strived to reconcile the issues faithfully. As we developed the renovation plan, we followed HDLC's guidelines to the letter, and with full transparency, our missions are not in conflict. The modifications we propose follow the guidelines for residences converted into commercial use. We are restoring the building's historic anatomy as a whole, bringing it up to commercial code and jump-starting its current perilous stagnation. As the fourth generation of New Orleans small business owners, we are excited to contribute to the city through the thoughtful restoration of a building withering between what it once was and what it could be. We are appealing to the City Council to assist in our success. Thank you. The next comment is from Brian Weimer. Dear honorable members of the New Orleans City Council, my name is Brian Weimer, and my husband, Randy Roy, and I ask your support of agenda item regular 3A, Alexandra Mine Designs, LLC. Alexandra Mine is my first cousin, and I have been intimately involved in her pursuit of finding a home for both her business and family in our city. The property at issue, 2820 St. Claude Avenue, has been abandoned and blighted for several years. Alexandra's request is straightforward, that the two windows of the uptown side of the structure be allowed to be full height as opposed to half height to promote a unified facade in harmony with the downriver portion of the building. Such full-length windows are quite common along commercial corridors such as Magazine Street and in shotgun residences in historic districts throughout the city. As residents and property owners in regulated historic districts of our city, we can truly appreciate and respect the role HDLC has in ensuring the integrity of the bywater. Alexandra's request is in line with the mission of the historic restoration and preservation, as well as neighborhood integrity and the cultivation of small businesses that contribute to the fabric and viability of the neighborhood. I am thrilled that Alexandra seeks to return the building to commerce and restore it from its blighted condition, and I ask for your support of her request. Lastly, I thank you for your continual and steadfast efforts for our city. And Mr. Weimer submitted that same comment 4 times. Those are all of the comments.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so colleagues, as we heard, at issue here is the proposed alterations to the window on the right-hand structure that's not consistent with the historic character of the building. My staff and HDLC staff afforded the applicant every opportunity to present evidence to the contrary. In fact, they also went out, HDLC staff went out to go look at the site as well to make sure that that was not actually evident. And so I do want to thank the applicant very much for working with both my team and with the HDLC staff to do investigations to see whether or not this was the case. So we've also, in doing so, we had deferred this from last week so that HDLC staff could finally conduct that site visit. And so now we are prepared to move forward. I just want to say I'm thrilled that Mrs. Mean is opening here and has gotten these 2 buildings. They're highly visible. They're going to be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. It's going to be a high quality project. And we're very excited that she's doing that. At this point, I cannot overrule HDLC. I've been very consistent with that. They voted 11-7, I'm sorry, 11-1, excuse me. And it's very consistent with how they're voting, that this is purely an aesthetic reason and not a structural reason. So with that, are there any questions from my colleagues?
Yeah, I just have one question. And I don't know if this, Councilmember Palmer, I don't think this necessarily for you, but maybe you can answer it, or HDLC is on. From what I saw from the renderings of this project, it looks like in one building, they're going to allow for the full length windows, but in the other, they're not. Is that true?
Correct. Eleanor, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, there was evidence that full-length windows did exist on the building on the left-hand side, but there's no evidence that they ever existed on the building on the right-hand side. And the HDLC often gets requests to change windows from, their original configuration to full length. And we often, consistently tell people that that doesn't meet the guidelines, that we're trying to preserve the historic authenticity of buildings and their history. And we advise people of that routinely, and people generally, then adhere to the guidelines and don't press the matter further. So in this case, the owner really does want full-length windows on that right-hand side, but they were never full-length windows there originally. And that's why the HDLC voted against them being made into something they never were.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I certainly understand, the rules that HDLC has to follow, but in looking in the renderings, I see how the property owner is trying to make both of these properties consistent and match. So I see why they would want the full length on both of them, so that it would look like one big unique single piece of property, even though it's two homes or 2 doubles, I think. Okay, thank you, Ms. Burke. I appreciate that.
I just wanted to note there are lots of other differences between the buildings, not just the windows. There's also differences in trim, differences in window type.
Ms. Burke, can you speak up and repeat the last 2 or 3 sentences you said?
Sorry, I was just going to say there are lots of other differences between the 2 buildings because they do not match. It's not just a question of the half-height windows. It's, the roof shape is different. The trim details on the openings are different. So these buildings, unless you completely reconstructed the facade on the right-hand side, won't ever really match. And it's our opinion that they never should match because they are 2 separate buildings.
And as I stated earlier, that was the reason for deferral last week, was I really wanted a staff member from HDLC to go out and physically look at the building, both inside and out, to ensure that that was in fact true. Are there any other comments?
Councilmember Palmer, what's their recourse now after this?
To renovate the building as approved by HDLC. And if they want to appeal that, I guess they could go to the courts. Again,
Awesome.
council member, this is a controlled HDLC district. I just want to be really clear. I have to be consistent. As we all know, my district covers very many locally controlled historic districts from the French Quarter, Marigny, Bywater, Algiers Point. There's a consistency here that I need to keep. This does not in any way, shape, or form impinge upon the property owner and what they're doing. We're very excited about it. But you also purchased a property that was within a locally controlled historic district. And this is also very, very visible. And in fact, they are two totally different buildings. Yes, they were conjoined to the rear of the property, in the center of the property, not in the front. So they do present as two separate properties. Very similar to when you shop on Magazine Street. One of the wonderful things about shopping on Magazine Street, you'll have different types of shotguns next to each other, right? Some have long windows, some have short windows, some have galleries, some have porches, some have stoops. But that also adds to the unique character and the overall presentation of a historic commercial corridor. And that is also something else that we're trying to maintain on St. Claude. And this area has seen a significant amount of renovations. It's really going on the ascendancy. And that's why we're also so very excited that they chose this area. But it is highly visible. And I think we need to be able to maintain that, that historical and that preservation, the integrity of the architecture on St. Claude.
And Councilmember Palmer, I do respect, where you are as far as consistency, and I've been, consistent with some of HDLC's positions, and when I've needed to go and overrule is because of reasons with the homeowner and making sure that we're being reasonable. And I was concerned. I don't see much difference with what they're specifically asking for, and you have these individuals that's reinvesting in the St. Claude corridor. I have covered jurisdictions, not as much as you, but some of Treme, which I share with you, of HDLC, and so I just don't see much disparity between the proposed depiction that they sent us and what HDLC has stated. That's all, and I respect where you are. So
I appreciate that. Are there any other council members that have a comment or a question? Great. Miss Laura, could you please?
Councilmember Nguyen?
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette?
no.
You said no?
Yes, ma'am. No.
Okay. Councilmember Glapion?
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno?
No.
Councilmember Gibson and Palmer?
Yay.
Councilmember Banks?
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso?
Yay.
We have 5 yeas, 2 nays, and the motion is adopted. We're now on top of page 14. We have legislative grouping. The HDLC appeal of Susan P. Johnson, Principal, Town of Carrollton Watch, LLC, requesting to appeal the Historic District Landmarks Commission's decision of approval of the demolition of a contributing rated 1-story accessory building, Caretaker's Cottage, for property located at 925 Burdette Street. Motion M2195 by Councilmember Jeruso. A motion denying the applicant's appeal and upholding the HDLC's approval of the demolition.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm going to move to deny the applicant's appeal and uphold the HDLC's approval of the demolition. May I have a
Second.
second by Councilmember Banks. And Eleanor, before you get started, I'm just going to diverge for 1 second and make another public service announcement for at least District A, which is this. If you have an MPP in District A and the COVID rules say that you can only do email or contact whoever the developer's person is, that is not going to work for me. You are going to need to have a telephone or a video conference where you include the affected neighbors who would be part of the MPP to make sure there's active participation. Everybody right now, as we heard earlier in the comments on the consent agenda, feel as though that things are being scooted through or processes are being avoided because of COVID. And it is 100% easy, and we're all doing video calls or conference calls to accommodate neighbors. And so it shouldn't be any difference. And it's not a reflection on this issue, but it's a pattern I'm seeing emerging. And I'm asking CPC, HDLC, and the other affected agencies to start looking at this requirement, given that we're a year in and that other platforms work well to accomplish this. But to be clear, if you try and do this in District A, you're not going to see the light of day. So
I'll second that and repost that.
thanks. Thank you. Thank you. I like the cosign. With that, Eleanor.
Okay, this is an appeal of the New Orleans Historic District Landmarks Commission's decision to approve the demolition of a one-story wood frame contributing rated accessory structure at 925 Burdette Street in the Carrollton Partial Control Historic District. HDLC guidelines. The demolition of all or portions of the historic resources within a local historic district or landmark site are considered drastic actions since they alter the character of the area. Once historic resources or buildings that contribute to the heritage of the community are destroyed, it is generally impossible to reproduce their design, texture, materials, details, and their special character and interest in the neighborhood. As a result, the HDLC rarely considers the demolition of significant or contributing rated buildings within a local historic district or a landmark site to be an appropriate action. When reviewing demolition applications at properties located within a full control historic district or at a landmark site, the HDLC uses the following criteria in its evaluations. The rating or significance of the building as designated. This building is designated as contributing. The importance of the building or structure to the tout ensemble of the area. The L-shaped accessory structure first appeared on the 1937 Sanborn map, indicating that it was constructed sometime between 1929 and 1937, and is within the period of significance for the district. The structure has maintained its original footprint and massing. The special character and aesthetic interest that the building or structure adds to the local historic district. While the rear accessory structure is only minimally visible from the public right-of-way, it does retain some of its original details, including the wood siding, shutters, and columns. The difficulty or impossibility of reproducing such a building or structure because of its design, texture, material, or detail. Based on its small footprint and minimal architectural detailing, this building would not be prohibitively expensive or difficult to reproduce. The condition of the building or structure. Inspector Deborah Goldstein performed an interior and exterior inspection of the property on January 22nd, 2021, and found the structure to be in poor to very poor condition. The one-story unoccupied accessory structure had a pier and beam foundation, a wood-framed superstructure, various types of siding, mainly wood, and an L-shaped gable roof covered in asphalt-type shingles. On the exterior, the foundation piers appeared to be in poor to very poor condition, particularly the rear chain wall, which was visibly bulging. Wood sills, joists, weatherboards, and studs in several areas were deteriorated, likely due to wood-destroying insects and/or wood rot. The rear wall was almost completely missing, except for a few studs, indicating water intrusion issues. Additional deteriorated elements included corner boards, window and trim, columns, shutters, doors, and trim, siding, steps, and roofing. On the interior, the floors were angling downward toward the rear of the structure where the masonry chain wall was failing. The walls and ceilings throughout the structure exhibited water damage in the forms of stains and deteriorated materials, indicating water intrusion within the building envelope. At their meeting of February 3rd, 2021, the commissioners reviewed the staff report, comments in favor of the demolition by the adjacent property owner, and the project architect's testimony. While the building is considered a contributing rated accessory structure, it is only minimally visible from the street. Additionally, as the building is in poor to very poor condition, structural repairs would need to be made to the left and rear walls, which are located on and over the property lines. Based on the poor to very poor condition of the structure and the property line issues, staff had no objection to the demolition application. However, if approval was granted, the staff requested that the applicant salvage as much of the existing building materials as possible for reuse or donation. The commission then voted unanimously to approve the application. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Eleanor. I think there's one public comment.
Yes, council member. It's from Susan Johnson. I am the petitioner in this appeal. I have been successfully stonewalled in my attempt to preserve the caretaker's cottage of the Ireland House for demolition. City officials and the owner of the property have refused to allow a senior architect and a senior structural engineer to evaluate the building, which was reviewed by a city building inspector in advance of the HDLC meeting of February 3rd that approved its demolition. I have done a bad job of advocating for this historic structure. I don't possess enough money, status, connections, diplomatic skills, or rhetorical power to save it. On the other hand, to sanction the demolition of the caretaker's cottage is to fail in the understanding of the importance of the symbolism of this building and of its parent house for Carrollton. Carrollton is in decline. The condition of our symbols show it. The courthouse has fallen into material decay in the hands of its new corporate owner, and now we have lost the Ireland House to subdivision and development. We are moreover losing scores of historic homes to private student housing developers. Investors are rushing into our neighborhood, in every instance from outside of Carrollton, to make money from it. Our community has become a commodity. Residents are waging a war with moneyed interest, house by house, before the zoning board, on broadcast and social media, and in the courts. Zoning restrictions have been of little avail, and Safety and Permits has consistently approved and now reapproved, in the case of the house at 1409 Broadway, plans for overdevelopment. Other communities are also suffering from excessive development by corporate investors and a corresponding lack of oversight by the city. Leonidas, Hollygrove, the Irish Channel, and the French Quarter, to name a few neighborhoods. Preservation societies have been powerless to stop the trend. In your future deliberations, please consider the importance of historic, cultural, and architectural preservation for our great city. Those are the end of the comments for the entirety of today's meeting for items being considered.
Thank you. All right, thanks, Teresa. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, will you please call roll on this matter?
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays. The motion has been adopted. On page 16, zoning docket 321 has been deferred to March 25th. On page 18, all matters. Zoning docket 421 has been deferred to March 25th. Zoning docket 521 has been deferred to March 25th. On top of page 19, zoning docket 721, St. Henry's, Inc., requesting a conditional use to prevent a primary educational facility in an HURD2 historic urban two-family residential district on Square 204, lots 22, 23, 24, and 25 in the 6th Municipal District bounded by Constant Street, Milan Street, General Pershing Street, and Magazine Street. Municipal address 4219 Constant Street. The recommendation of the City Planning Commission being for approval, subject to 3 provisos. Motion M2196 by Councilmember Banks. A motion approving CPC's favorable recommendation and granting the request subject to 3 provisos provided in the City Planning Report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I move for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Nguyen. Stephen, I think
Yes.
you are. Yes, sir. Would you please?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Council Member. This is a request by Ecole Bilingue School Uptown on General Pershing to expand into another structure. The school currently in part occupies one of the former St. Henry Church buildings and intends now to expand into one of the other former church buildings that immediately neighbors the existing building. While the property is institutional, it does have the residential zoning that includes most of the surrounding neighborhood. And so institutional uses such as schools are regulated through the conditional use process, which requires conditional use approval for this expansion. The primary point of the conditional use review is to determine impact and whether that's appropriate. In this case, there's really no substantial impact. The school isn't increasing its student population. It's just expanding to give its existing middle school class more space within which to operate. And there's actually really the positive impact of reoccupying this historic institutional structure. So the Planning Commission is wholly supportive of it. There were no comments in opposition voiced at the Planning Commission meeting. And so it is before you with an approval recommendation from City Planning.
Stephen, thank you. Colleagues, I will ask you to support this. The one thing that Stephen did mention, we have, as what we do with all these zoning issues, been very intentional in making sure that the neighbors were fine. The neighbors are in support of this. So all around, I think this is a good project, and I would ask you all to join with me in supporting it. So with that, Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Nguyen.
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette.
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion.
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno.
Yay.
Councilmember Gibson Palmer.
Yay.
Councilmember Banks.
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays. The motion has been adopted. On top of page 20, Legislative Group and Zoning Docket 821, Charters Properties, LLC, requesting a conditional use to permit a wine shop in an HUB1 Historic Urban Neighborhood Business District, a CPC Character Preservation Corridor Design Overlay District, and the Magazine Street Use Restriction Overlay District on Square 204, Lot 14A, in the 6th Municipal District bounded by Magazine Street, Constant Street, General Pershing Street, and Milan Street. Municipal address 4210 through 4214 Magazine Street. A recommendation of the City Planning Commission being for approval subject to 4 provisos. We have motion M2198 by Councilmember Banks, a motion approving CPC's favorable recommendation and granting the request subject to the 4 provisos provided in the City Planning Report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Brissette. Stephen?
Yes, thank you, Council Member. This is a conditional use application to occupy an existing commercial structure in the 4200 block of Magazine with a wine shop. The wine shop use is regulated through the conditional use process, so council approval is required here. This is really an appropriate use from the perspective of the Planning Commission and would really complement and serve as an amenity to the Magazine Street commercial corridor. There was no public opposition voiced before the Planning Commission, just support voiced by the applicant. And so the Planning Commission is supportive and believes this is appropriate as a zoning matter and recommends approval. I will note that This does neighbor the school that was the subject of the previous application, and there are city code implications around alcohol sales that the applicant will have to work through separately from this zoning approval. But the Planning Commission does recommend approval of this application.
Stephen, thank you. Colleagues, I would ask you also to join with me in this one. We've spoken to neighborhood leaders in Fall River Marengo. They are very supportive. The applicant lost his lease down in the Marigny. And to be honest with you, it's the Marigny's loss and our gain. They were excellent neighbors and excellent business. And we're very happy to welcome them to District B. And with all due respect to my colleague, Councilmember Palmer, this is a good one that got away, and I'm glad we were able to catch it. So with that, I would ask you all to please support this. So one thing I also want to put in, this is the first application that we've had under the new wine shop definition. So we're intentional on trying to make these things fit within the neighborhoods, with the neighborhood having the voice as to how it should go. So with that, I would ask you all to please support this. Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Wait, just a second,
Wait, I'm sorry. Councilmember Palmer.
Because we were so upset that he left the Marigny, and he was actually able to open the Marigny because I changed the definition of wine store many years ago. But don't worry, he's coming back, and we're looking at another location in the Marigny so that we can hope that he'll have 2 locations. Because I absolutely miss going to Second Vine after work.
And make sure you guys hang on to them in C and B, because he is also a great potential.
Well, I would strongly encourage all of the citizens to please support them where they are so that we can get this expansion over to C and to E, and not to disparage A and D. I'm sure that they would have space for them also. So they are excellent neighbors, an excellent business, all around good people, and have been an asset. So we're glad to welcome them. So with that again, Madam Clerk, if you would.
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
and Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay for May.
Seven yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. We're now on top of page 21, legislative grouping, zoning docket 1021, Casey D. Roberts and Zachary F. Burnett, requesting a zoning change from an HURD2 historic urban 2-family residential district to an HUMU historic urban mixed-use district on square 355, lot 32 in the 2nd Municipal District, bounded by Dumaine Street, North Broad Street, North White Street, and St. Philip Street. Municipal addresses 2721 through 2723 Dumaine Street. The recommendation of the City Planning Commission being for denial. Motion M2194 by Councilmember Jeruso, a motion upholding the City Planning Commission's unfavorable recommendation and denying the zoning change request.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Stephen, you mind presenting?
Yeah, thank you, Council Member. This is a zoning change application that would affect a single property on Dumaine Street, just off of Broad Street. That property is really at the edge of the mixed-use zoning district that extends along Broad and the residential zoning district that spans the neighborhood just off of Broad. The property was historically developed with a double. It appears that over the last few years, a 3rd unit has been added, although it's unclear whether that was legally permitted. The Planning Commission couldn't find evidence of legal permitting of that 3rd unit. And so the applicant is seeking to change the zoning to legitimize the future use of the 3rd unit as a matter of zoning. The way that the applicant seeks to do this is by expanding the mixed-use zoning district that's on Broad Street to include this one additional property. The Planning Commission's primary concern here is that the zoning is intended to implement the master plan. The master plan makes a distinction between what's on Broad and what's just off of Broad, and the zoning sort of fits hand in glove with that. So the zoning line fits the master plan line. There's not a justification for disconnecting the zoning line from where the master plan boundary is in a way that pulls this into the mixed use district on Broad. It's really more similar to what's residentially zoned and therefore should remain with that residential zoning. So the Planning Commission recommends denial for those reasons.
Thank you, Stephen. In addition to the points that you raised, I'll bootstrap to say it's sort of like zoning creep. And if you start letting it happen one place, then it starts happening somewhere else. Also, I think, as my colleagues know, I'm generally hesitant to support spot zoning properties, especially to upzone in a dramatic fashion. And that's what this is. This would also obviously spot zone and change the property for forever. Moreover, the issue near and dear to our heart, if approved, this would allow for 2 short-term rentals with 1 double home. And so I think that also radically changes kind of what we'd be interested in. So with that, I move to uphold the CPC's unfavorable recommendation and deny the rezoning change request. May I please have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Palmer. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays. The motion is adopted.
Thank
On
you.
top, you're welcome. On top of page 22, zoning docket 1121 has been deferred to 325. On top of page 23, ordinance calendar number 32,930 has been deferred to April 8th. On top of page 24, all matters, ordinance calendar number 33,018 has been deferred to April 8th. Amendment to the ordinance 3318 has been deferred to April 8th. On top of page 25, all matters, ordinance calendar number 33,144 has been referred to the Government Affairs Committee and deferred to March 25th. I'm sorry. Ordinance calendar number 33,155 has been referred to Governmental Affairs Committee and deferred to March 25th. On top of page 26, all matters, ordinance calendar number 33,156 has been referred to the Governmental Affairs Committee and deferred to March 25th. Ordinance calendar 33,183 has been deferred to April 8th. On top of page 27, legislative grouping, ordinance calendar number 33,214 by Councilmember Banks. An ordinance to grant a planned development in a C3 heavy commercial district and an enhanced corridor design overlay district on the entireties of squares 670 and 671 and the closed former portion of South Rendon Street between the 2 squares in the first municipal district bounded by South Francis C. Norman Parkway, Callio Street, Euphorine Street, and South Lopez Street. Municipal addresses 1050 South Francis C. Norman Parkway, 4401 Callio Street, and 4440 through 4444 Euphorine Street, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Zoning docket 7220. We have an amendment to the ordinance calendar number 33,214 by Councilmember Banks. An amendment to replace South Jefferson Davis Parkway throughout the ordinance with South Norman C. Francis Parkway. And in lines 159 and 160, delete the proposed affordability terms and insert in lieu thereof any proposed affordability terms if applicable. That is the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I move for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Wynn. Colleagues, this is, we've been working on this for a minute. This is going to be a housing development at the old Coca-Cola plant. We are working through the parking issues. There were very few exceptions that we were not able to, very few parking waivers that we're gonna have to be looking at. But all in all, this is a very good project. It does not have a specified affordability, but we do have faith and confidence that the developers will be working to that end. I think that this is a good project because it's going to create housing in a centrally located area of the city that allows folks, regular folks, to be able to live and to get to work. So we'd love for you to join with us in supporting this. So with that, I ask you for your favorable consideration. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno, Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 6 yeas, no nays, and the amendment has been adopted. Now we need to adopt the ordinance as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Who's second, please?
Cindy.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno, Councilmember Gissison
Yay.
Palmer.
Yay.
Okay, I got you, Councilmember Moreno. Councilmember, and I got you, Councilmember Gissison Palmer. Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the ordinance as amended has been adopted. We're now on top of page 28. Ordinance calendar number 33,232 has been referred to the Community Development Committee and deferred to April 22nd. At the bottom of the page, ordinance calendar number 33,242 by Councilmember Wynn by request. An ordinance authorizing a sale at public auction for a minimum price to be set by appraisal of certain portions of ground with all improvements and appurtenances thereon, and all of the rights, ways, privileges, servitudes, and appurtenances thereunto belonging or any wise pertaining to in the 3rd Municipal District of the City of New Orleans, Orleans Parish, State of Louisiana, the properties, and described more fully in attached Exhibit A, which are no longer needed for public purposes and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, this ordinance is to authorize the auction of 7 properties in the Shepherdstown Highway and Crowder Boulevard corridor. Following this ordinance, an appraisal of these properties will be completed, and the minimum bid will be the fair market value as set by the appraisal. And the auction should be scheduled in late April. These city-owned properties are no longer needed by the city, and we hope that this auction process will get them in the hands of responsible owners that will maintain and develop them. So I do ask for your support. I don't think there's any comments. I'll go ahead and move on the ordinance. So I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Banks. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the ordinance is adopted. We're now on top of page 30. We have ordinance calendar number 33,253 by Councilmember Gissison Palmer. An ordinance to amend and reordain section 162-287 of the Code of the City of New Orleans relative to for-hire vehicle coverage amounts to reduce minimum insurance policy requirements for non-emergency medical transport and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Great. So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Council members, this was also heard at the February 24th Transportation Committee hearing. Basically what this is recently the state's changed its general liability limits for non-emergency medical transports. So this basically, this ordinance basically puts the city limits in accordance with the state limits. In addition to that, the other good thing is this will help save the cab drivers some additional money, which will be helpful in this time. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this? No? Great. So with that, Ms. Laura?
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays. The ordinance has been adopted. At the bottom of the page, ordinance calendar number 33,254 has been referred to the Community Development Committee and Governmental Affairs Committee and deferred to March the 25th. On top of page 31, motion line over M2236 has been deferred to March 25th. At the bottom of the page, motion M2188 by Councilmember Moreno, confirming the following appointments made by the council president to the following city council committees pursuant to Council Rule 38. Transportation and Airport Committee, Councilmember Gissison Palmer, the chair. Councilmember Donna M. Glapion, Councilmember Joseph I. Jeruso III, Councilmember Jared C. Brissett, and Councilmember Cindy Nguyen, the members. Council Emergency Preparedness and Cybersecurity Special Committee, Councilmember Jared C. Brissett, Chair, Councilmember Helena Moreno, Councilmember Donna M. Glapion, Councilmember Joseph I. Jeruso III, Councilmember J.H. Banks, Councilmember Kristen Gissison Palmer, Councilmember Cindy Nguyen, the members. Ad valorem and Dedicated Revenue Special Committee, Councilmember Helena Moreno, Chair, Councilmember Donna M. Glapion, Councilmember Joseph I. Jeruso III, Councilmember J.H. Banks, Councilmember Kristen Gissison Palmer, Councilmember Jared C. Brissett, Councilmember Cindy Nguyen, the members. That is the motion.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members, what we're doing here is adding Vice President Glapion to these committees. So I'll make a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I think Councilmember Nguyen got that one first. So
No,
seconded by
it was
Councilmember
It
Nguyen.
was Councilmember Jeruso.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Cindy.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Yay.
Councilmember Brissett.
Yay.
Councilmember Glapion.
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno.
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer.
Yay.
Councilmember Banks.
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. Motion M2189 by Councilmember Nguyen, a motion to waive the permit fees relative to facility rentals associated with the season games, which are officially sponsored by the Louisiana Lightning football team, held at Joe W. Brown Memorial Park, Victory Field Stadium on Saturday, March 13, 2021, Saturday, March 27, 2021, Saturday, April 10, 2021, Saturday, May 1st, 2021, and Saturday, May 22nd, 2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, I ask for your support. This motion only waives 50% of the permitting fees as outlined in our city ordinance. I also ask for your support to ensure that these type of activities continue to exist in our community so our young people will have access to quality time at Joe Brown Park. So I'd like to move on motion M21-89. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Yay.
Councilmember Brissett.
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion.
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno.
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer.
Yay.
Councilmember Banks.
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. At the bottom of the page, motion M2190 has been deferred to March the 25th because it has to be advertised. On top of page 33, motion M2191 by Councilmember Nguyen, a motion to waive NARDAC facility rental fees relative to the George Washington Carver High School's hosting of the 6th annual Carver Classic track meet, which will take place on March the 6th, 2021 from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Joe W. Brown Park's Victory Track.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Again, I ask for your support for motion M2191. 50% is waived for the rental fee and continue to have space for our young people. Do I have a second?
Second.
second by Councilmember Brissette. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion,
Yes.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays, and the motion has been adopted. At the bottom of the page, Resolution 2192 has been deferred to March 25th. Council members, we need to suspend the rules to go to ordinances on first reading.
Madam Clerk, before we do that, Councilmember Brissette has a point of personal privilege. Councilmember Brissette.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. If y'all would indulge just a few seconds. Ms. Sharon Temple went to go get one of our long-serving employees who is retiring, Ms. Carletta Graves, and wanted to take this personal privilege for us to recognize her. I have a proclamation that all of you have signed, and Ms. Temple is going to find Ms. Graves. Here is the proc, so y'all can see.
She's working hard. That's
Mahogany.
why she's not coming over to.
Mahogany frame. Yeah, 39 years.
Wow.
It's and not just for the clerk's office either.
Jay was 43 when she started working here.
Jay was what?
43.
It was actually 44, Joseph. Thank
sorry.
you for the compliment.
Right.
I think your door is going to be egged before you leave.
All right.
Down there. Coletta Graves. Tell me, you can
Hey, Ms. Graves.
Hey, Ms. Graves.
Hi,
How you doing?
great.
How's it going today?
Oh, it's beautiful.
One day closer to Friday?
It's an awesome day tomorrow.
What's tomorrow?
I would like y'all to come and join me about 2 o'clock, and then I'm gonna have a little second line out the front door.
Where you going?
Oh, round the corner into the garage.
Ms. Johnson said you had some stuff to do next week.
Well, send it in the memo. And I'll get to it in my service life.
That's a good way to put it. You can put that auto reply on, right?
Okay, will do.
Well, look, Ms. Graves, we wanted to honor you for, I didn't know it was, I knew it was long, but I didn't know it was that long. A proclamation from us, the City Council, for in honor of your 39 years of service. There are many people that come in and out of the building, and it's important to recognize the hard work and the many years that you have put in the time and to make government run. It's people like you that produce and enable us to do the job we can for the people of our city. And so it reads, whereas Carletta Graves is retiring after 39 years of service with the city of New Orleans, and whereas Ms. Graves began her career in municipal government in 1981 when she began working with the New Orleans Police Department as an accounting clerk, a position she retained until 1986 when she moved to the Department of Finance. And whereas in 1987, Ms. Graves moved to the Department of Property Management as their field payroll clerk, a position she'd held to 1989. Whereas Ms. Graves then moved to the Division of Housing and Neighborhood Development for the city of New Orleans, where her work as a finance analyst helped to further affordable housing and development in the city. And whereas in 2003, Ms. Graves transferred to the Department of Public Works, where she spent 2 years as a contract analyst. And whereas Ms. Graves made her final career move in 2006 when she began working for the clerk of City Council, Ms. Graves spent the next 15 years serving as an office manager and human resource officer, a role in which she unselfishly provided support and expertise to streamline legislative functions. And whereas Ms. Graves has spent the last 39 years of her professional life working tirelessly for the city of New Orleans for the benefit of her community, now therefore be it proclaimed by the city of New Orleans that the council recognizes and congratulates Carletta Graves at the request of myself in the name of and by the authority vested in the council of the city of New Orleans. Congratulations on your 39 years, Marky. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think our only jealousy is you're going to be taking a vacation before any of us.
Oh, well.
We are really going to miss seeing you, Ms. Graves.
And
Thank
you
you for all your
got
help.
you got to hold on to ease for us. I'm going to open it up to my colleagues.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to
And
say.
staff.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're just going to really miss you, Ms. Graves, and you've always been such a great help, especially for those of us who's it's our first term on the council. So I just really appreciate your dedication to the city, to the dedication really to the people of this city. And we wish you all the best in your retirement. Very well deserved.
Thank you.
And I'll miss your smile.
Ditto for me. Thank you so much for your service. I really appreciate you.
And Claude, I just want to say thank you for all of the years. Many times these jobs are not easy. They don't pay the most money. This is not the place you're ever going to get rich. You really got to want to do this stuff to be able to stay here this long and to provide service to our citizens. And I just want to tell you, I appreciate you for all that you've done over these years. We will miss you, but I have no doubt that that this facet of your life is probably going to be much more fun, much more rewarding. And I wish you all the best. So again, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just say that I think everybody's seen what happens in public, but not behind the dais. And we can't do our job without you and everybody else in the clerk's office. And for you to have committed nearly 40 years of your life to helping multiple councils says so much about your commitment and your hard work. And I wish you the best in your retirement.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Graves. I'm sorry we won't get the chance to work together much longer, but much deserved, and best of luck in your next chapter. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those kind
Johnson?
Ms. Carletta, I
Yeah.
just want to take this time to say thank you, because you really helped out the clerk's office and you really went above and beyond in your duties and your capabilities in serving the public as well as assisting me in serving the council. So I just want to say that as you get ready to embark on the next part of your life, may it be a fuller and richer life, because your latter days are better than your beginning days. So good luck to you and the next chapter in your life. And thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Ms. Graves, again, and may God continue to bless you with grace, love, and prosperity. Ms. Temple, I think you're in our office.
She could come in my office.
I think I want to say thank you for working with us on the proclamation, and she communicated with us on your resume. But Ms. Temple, you want close us out?
Yes, I want to tell Carletta congratulations on her retirement. I'll miss Carletta. She always says whatever. So, I'm going to miss that on Carletta. But she was a great help in the alcohol beverage department as well, working with the board and the city attorney's office as well. And we in the clerk office are going to miss Carletta. I'm going to miss her too. I'm trying to not get full, but I see it's coming. So I'm going to get off the air.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Temple. And Ms. Graves, I'll be down soon to bring you your proclamation.
All right. Well, thank
Happy retirement again.
Well, thank you so much. I hope y'all come tomorrow and second line with me out the door. That would I would really love y'all to do. But it's not going to be a big, long, ceremony. And since it's pandemic, I really was wanting to hire a brass band, but since it's pandemic, I can't do it. I just have to.
I think live entertainment returns tomorrow, so
It's too late to try to entertain somebody. But
You can have 150 people according to the new guidelines.
I think between Jay, myself, and everybody else on the council, we know somebody.
yeah, well, a bit late, but this a few to walk down the hall out the door, and but like I said, my service has been great. I always enjoy helping people, helping them, and you'll never get paid for what that's worth. I found that out a long time ago, and it's rewarding, and it's been great. And I'm gonna miss you all. Bye bye.
Oh no.
Oh, God, have mercy.
Thank you, Madam Pres.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Brossette, for putting that together for all of us. Appreciate it. All right, we got another point of personal privilege. Turning it over to Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Madam President. This will be brief, but I would be negligent if I did not acknowledge. The fact is that professional sports is a business. It is designed to make money, and decisions are often made purely based on that fact. But there are times when people intersect that genuinely make a difference, and it's far bigger than the business. Now, there was a gentleman who was a Saints player. His name is Thomas Morstead, who for 12 years was a member of the New Orleans Saints, but he was much more than a member of the New Orleans Saints. He was a member of this community. And over his tenure, he donated millions of dollars to children's projects. And I can tell you for sure, because he donated to projects at the Drydes YMCA where I was before I came here. There was not a Thanksgiving basket giveaway that happened that Thomas was not there. And when our kids needed help, he was always there to stand up. And I was very sorry to hear his tenure ending with the Saints, but I was very excited to hear that he would remain a New Orleanian. And we were blessed to get him. I'm glad we still got him. But again, professional athletes come and go. But somebody of his love and spirit and his commitment to this community is somebody that I think we all should be proud of. And I want to say publicly on the record how much I appreciate him and all that he did over the time that he was a Saint. And I'm sure that he's going to continue to do all he was doing to help our kids be successful. So with that, Thomas, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Banks. All right, Ms. Temple, now it's your turn. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay.
Got to move in second. We haven't voted to go to the first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we did. All right, I'll make a motion to go to first reads. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Nguyen. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Yay.
Councilmember Brossette.
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion.
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno.
Yay.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer.
Yay.
Councilmember Banks.
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays. The rules are suspended.
All right, Ms. Temple, it's all yours.
All right, council members. Ordinances on first reading. Ordinance calendar number 33,255 by Councilmember Brossette by request. And ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,550 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate federal grant funds from intergovernmental transfers to the fire department for assistance to firefighters grant, the fire prevention and safety grant, and FY19 port security grant, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,256 by Councilmember Brossette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,551 MCS as amended. entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate federal grant funds from intergovernmental transfers to the fire department for the assistance to firefighters grant, the fire prevention and safety grant, and the FY19 port security grant, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,257 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,551 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to transfer funds within the Department of Parks and Parkways budget from personal services to other operating towards the purchase of supplies and equipment and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,258 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,551 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to transfer funds within the New Orleans Recreation Development Commission budget from other operating to personal services to properly fund personnel supported by millage funding and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,259 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,550 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate grant funds awarded by the Department of Health and Human Services to the Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control Board for the CDC Environmental Public Health and Emergency Response Grant Program and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,260 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,551 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the year for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate grant funds awarded by the Department of Health and Human Services to the Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control Board for the CDC Environmental Public Health and Emergency Response Grant Program and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Excuse me. Okay. Ordinance calendar number 33,261 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,550 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate federal grant funds awarded to the Department of Health by the Unity Safe at Home Rapid Rehousing Grant Program to provide rapid rehousing case management to homeless individuals and families and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,262 by Councilmember Brissette by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 28,551 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2021 to appropriate federal grant funds awarded to the Department of Health by Unity Safe at Home Rapid Rehousing Grant Program to provide rapid rehousing case management to homeless individuals and families and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,263 by Councilmember Gibson Palmer by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into a lease agreement with a successful bidder for at least the minimum price set by appraisal for a certain portion of ground together with all buildings and improvements thereon situated in the parish of Orleans, 5th Municipal District, Square 5, Part 9, or Lot A, as part of a subdivision of the Appendix 14 and 15, as more fully shown on the attached surveys and site plans attached as Exhibit A to the lease agreement formerly known as a two-row Shakespeare home, and which improvements bear the municipal address 2621 General Meyer Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70114, hereinafter the lease premises, to fix the terms and conditions of said lease agreement, to declare that such property to be leased is no longer needed for public purposes and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,264 by Councilmember Gibson Palmer by request. An ordinance to amend and rename Division 2 of Article 11 of Chapter 154 of the Code of the City of New Orleans to transfer functions of the Department of Safety and Permits to the Department of Public Works and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,265 by Councilmember Gibson Palmer. An ordinance to establish a conditional use to permit a 3-unit multifamily residence in a historic Marigny Treme Bywater residential district and a residential diversity overlay district on Square 257, lots 20 and 21, or part of lot 221, or an undesignated lot in the 3rd Municipal District, bounded by Burgundy Street, St. Roch Avenue, Spain Street, and Dauphine Street. Municipal address is 2458 through 2460 Burgundy Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket number 621. Ordinance calendar number 33,266 by Councilmember Nguyen. An ordinance to temporarily waive certain fees, permit fees, and requirements at the Joe W. Brown Park Victory Track, 5601 Reed Boulevard, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70127, in conjunction with the events with the 6th Annual Carver Classic Track Meet hosted by George Washington Carver High School to take place March 6, 2021 from 9 a.m. through 4:00 p.m. to specify duration and bounds of said waiver and to provide otherwise with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 33,267 by Councilmember Banks by request. An ordinance revoking the street dedication and authorizing the sale at public auction for a minimum price to be set by appraisal of a certain portion of the ground together with all the rights, ways, privileges, servitude, and appurtenances thereunto belonging or in any wise pertaining, situated in the 6th Municipal District of the City of New Orleans in Square 89, bounded by South Front Street or Leak Avenue, Marengo Street, Chapatula Street, and Constantinople Street, designated as a portion of South Front Street or Leak Avenue as shown on the plan of survey and redivision of the office of Galdolfo Cohn, LLC, dated April 10th, 2020, last revised June 3rd, 2020, the portion of South Front Street which is no longer needed for public purposes and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance number, calendar number 33,268 by Councilmember Banks. An ordinance to establish a conditional use of permit a wine shop in a historic urban neighborhood business district, a character preservation corridor design overlay district, and the Magazine Street use restriction overlay district on square 204 lot 14A in the 6th Municipal District bounded by Magazine Street, Constant Street, General Pershing Street, and Milan Street. Municipal address 4210 through 4214 Magazine Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket number 821, and that completes all the ordinances on first reading.
Thank you so much, Ms. Temple. Appreciate it. All right, that concludes our agenda unless anyone else wants to keep us here a little longer. So with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move.
All right. Wow. All right, that was moved by Councilmember Jeruso, a very fast second by Councilmember Giselson Palmer. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette.
Yes.
Councilmember Glapion.
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno.
Yay.
Councilmember Giselson Palmer.
Yay.
Councilmember Banks.
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
7 yeas, no nays. The meeting is adjourned.
Have a good one.
All right.
Bye, everybody.